Hey guys, it's Ashley. Welcome back to my channel. As you can see by the title of today's video, today I'm going to be covering a little exploitation gem from 1982 called Class of 1984, directed and co-written by Mark Lester, starring Perry King, Roddy McDowall, and Timothy Van Patten. So we might all be familiar with the typical story slash genre of inspiring films in which a spirited, selfless teacher attempts to reform their troubled students, such as Lean on Me, Dangerous Minds, that one My So-Called Life episode. Well, what if you take that idea, but have the teacher fight back and get revenge on a group of sadistic youths who push him to the point of no return? Add some punk culture and a little early 80s sleaze, and you get Class of 1984. So I have been dying to cover this movie for such a long time, so I'm really excited that I get to talk about it with you guys today on the channel. I first discovered this movie watching The Last Drive-In with Joe Bob Briggs, actually. I think it was back in 2020 or 2021 when they showed it, and I just had a blast watching it. It instantly became a favorite. I don't know how popular this film is with my audience, you guys. I assume most of y'all are familiar with this film. Is it a horror film? I think it is, in a non-traditional way. It's definitely horrific, and I think Joe Bob Briggs called it a docudrama horror film. I mean, the last act definitely gets into slasher territory, in my opinion. But yeah, I don't want this intro to be unnecessarily long. Let's dive into a cult classic that really makes you want to say, "F them kids." This is Class of 1984. The film begins with the words, "Last year there were 280,000 incidents of violence by students against teachers and their classmates in American high schools." Unfortunately, this film is based on true events. Fortunately, very few schools are like Lincoln High. Yet. Then we get a blood-red title card while Alice Cooper's I Am the Future plays over a montage of the mischievous hooligans of Lincoln High School. And this intro is crazy. We've got theft, vandalism, PDA, fighting, drugs, more vandalism. This is when we meet our protagonist, Andrew Norris. It's his first day at Lincoln High as the school's new music teacher. In the parking lot, he meets fellow biology teacher, Terry Corrigan, who is carrying a gun in his briefcase. Like, damn. When Andrew asks about the gun, Terry asks him, "Where have you been teaching lately?" "Nowhere," Andrew responds. "It figures. Let me guide you in," Terry says. When they enter the school, Andrew notices that everyone is being scanned by metal detectors as they walk in.
Is that really necessary?
It is if you want to survive.
Terry proceeds to ask Andrew if he knows any moves. Jiu-jitsu, boxing, karate. Not a good sign. Principal Morgenthau also gives Andrew kind of the lowdown. He explains that they have surveillance cameras in every hall, never leave your classroom unlocked, and he also assigns Andrew to patrol the halls and washrooms as a security guard during his free hours. Yeah, the way I would be out of there so fast. Andrew walks into his first class of the day and basically just freezes in shock as soon as he realizes what exactly he is dealing with. The class is rowdy as all hell, but there's a certain group of 5 disruptive students who are causing the most trouble. Andrew tells everyone to settle down and sits down at his desk. That's when a girl named Deneen comes over to introduce herself. She also tells Andrew that those guys don't belong in here, motioning towards the troublemakers.
You mean they're not in this class?
No. These groups in class by themselves.
That's when we're introduced to the film's main antagonists. The gang consists of Drugstore, Barnyard, Patsy, Fallon, and Peter Stegman.
Mein Name ich bin Stegman. Pizza.
Stegman is the leader of the gang and the only member of the group who is actually registered in that class. They all eventually walk out though, but not without being the most insufferable assholes possible first.
What's the matter with you?
What's the matter with you? What's the matter with me? What's the matter with matter?
After Stegman and his gang leave, Andrew gets to know some of his other students and discovers most of them actually want to be there and actually want to learn. including a kid named Arthur, who's Danine's friend and plays the trumpet, played by a then unknown Michael J. Fox. We get to know the gang a little better too, as they roam the halls causing mayhem. We find out they're drug dealers, and also that Stegman loves to talk about himself in third person, so we know just what kind of guy he is.
Oh, yeah, well, we better do. Otherwise, Stegman's gonna find himself some bigger, badder boys.
The gang catches sight of another student in the hallway, Leroy, who is also selling drugs. They begin to chase him through the halls, eventually pulling him into the bathroom. Barnyard, Fallon, and drugstore then hold him up, while Stegman proceeds to beat the shit out of him, telling him that they're the top dogs at the school, and the only ones who get to sell drugs. Leroy says he was only doing it because another student told him so, to which Stegman responds, if they want to play, come meet them after school. So we already know that these kids are troublemakers just from how they were acting in the class. But this scene is the first scene where we really find out just how vile these punks really are. Like, these guys have not even had 5 minutes of screen time yet, and we already know just how racist, homophobic, obnoxious, and heinous they are, with Stegman being the absolute worst. And spoiler alert, it gets so much worse. In the teacher's lounge, Andrew asks Terry what happened to Mr. Goldstein, who was the teacher that he replaced. Terry says quite ominously that they say he had an accident. They say he fell down the stairs and will be back. But old teachers, they never come back, at least not here. He then asks Andrew how his classes went that day, and Andrew responds that some of them like music and want to learn how to play it well. Terry then says, "You're way ahead of me then. There isn't one of my little bastards, not one of them, that shows the slightest interest in biology," and you can really hear the genuine disappointment in his tone. After school lets out for the day, Andrew walks back to his car only to find out that it's been vandalized, go figure. At his home that evening, his wife, Diane, who is currently pregnant with their child, asks how his first day went, and Andrew tells her it went just about as bad as it could have. Meanwhile, Leroy's gang meets Stegman's gang in an underpass, and the boys get into a good old-fashioned brawl until the cops come. Stegman's gang gets away, and later that night we find out that Patsy somehow was able to steal the school's faculty roster, leading the gang to figure out Andrew's address. Cut to Andrew and Diane getting home from dinner when a car aggressively pulls up right in front of theirs. Diane tells Andrew that they should just go in the house, but Andrew insists on going to see what the deal is. He walks over to the strange car and asks the occupants if they want something. And of course, it's Stegman and his gang, all wearing masks or some type of disguise. They proceed to shoot Andrew right in the face with stage blood before driving off. When Diane asks Andrew if he knows who they were, Andrew says he recognizes them as kids from the school, probably just fooling around. The gang then drives to a nearby punk club where Teenage Head is playing, and we get a pretty awesome slam dancing scene. Apparently, most of the people in this scene were actual punks who they got to be a part of the movie in addition to the actors, and according to the director, things got pretty rowdy and violent. Lisa Langless, who plays Patsy, actually hid in her trailer in fear that the actual punk girls were gonna beat her up because she had pink hair, which was not considered punk at the time. Also, this might be a good time to bring this up. Joe Bob Briggs also brought this up in his Last Drive-In episode, and I agree with it. Basically, that there might be a misrepresentation of punks in this movie. And just to clarify further, Stegman and his gang aren't punks. Although punks stood for rebellion and nonconformity, I just can't classify Stegman and his gang as punks. Like, punks were fucking cool. These guys are criminals and they suck. And just because they wear the clothes and listen to the music doesn't make them actual punks. I personally love the punk culture depicted in this film, but I just wanted to bring that up. I hope you guys understand what I'm trying to say. Moving on. We find out that the gang runs their operations out of the punk club, and this one kid named Vinny comes in and tells Stegman that he wants to work for them. Stegman says he'll get back to him after finding out that the kid is only 14. This is when they bring in a girl named Sally, who wants to score some cocaine. Patsy tells Stegman that if he supplies, Sally will hook for them. It just keeps getting worse. They give Sally some coke, and Patsy asks why don't they make her take her clothes off? Yeah, so then Stegman orders this girl to take her clothes off and makes Fallon have sex with her. And apparently this girl did not want to take her clothes off for this scene and was traumatized so badly by the experience that she never acted again. So, another day, another dollar, Drugstore says while shooting up, as Stegman waits for the next poor young soul to walk in the door. Back at school, Andrew decides to put together a junior symphony with some of his more advanced students. As he's talking about the orchestra, Stegman and the gang decide to crash the class, having just overheard everything that Norris was talking about with the symphony. Andrew flat out tells Stegman he doesn't want him in his class, and to take his friends and go back to wherever he came from. But as Andrew begins to throw out the rest of the gang, he turns back around at the sound of beautiful piano being played. Yeah, so apparently Stegman actually does have talent musically. Actor Timothy Van Patten, who plays Stegman, actually wrote this piece of music and performed it for the film. Understandably surprised, Norris stands listening to Stegman play in awe. "Do I get the gig, teacher?" Stegman asks, and Andrew asks him where he learned to play like that. "Do I get the f***ing gig?" Stegman shouts in his face. "No," Andrew replies. "Maybe I'll give you a shot when you grow up. Now get out." I know that's right. Stegman throws a fit, refers to himself in third person again, and storms out of the class with the rest of his gang. In Terry's biology class, we see Terry taking care of his lab animals, telling Andrew just how much he loves them, and how they remind him that the world is still a rational place. Terry is also drinking on the job, which, damn, you know it's bad when you can't even wait to get home to get drunk. In the boys' restroom, Arthur is with his bandmate, Jimmy. Jimmy is wanting to buy some PCP from Stegman and his gang, claiming that it'll help him play better. Arthur is trying to talk him out of it, saying it's bad news, man. Stegman tells them, hey, either buy it or walk. Jimmy does end up buying some and snorts it immediately, like a lot of it. Andrew notices Fallon guarding the boys' bathroom and immediately knows something is going on in there. Fallon is able to warn everyone though, and they toss the drugs and try to act normal just as Andrew walks into the bathroom. He orders everyone to line up and empty their pockets, and they do. Norris walks around and scans the stalls for anything illegal and ends up finding the bag of drugs in one of the urinals. He walks up to Arthur and asks if he's buying drugs, to which Arthur replies that he doesn't mess with that stuff, and neither does Jimmy. Meanwhile, Jimmy is already completely losing his mind, Jesus Christ. But Andrew doesn't realize this, and he lets Arthur and Jimmy leave. He tries to get Stegman and his gang to come with him to the principal's office, believing the drugs are theirs. That's when Stegman says, "In case you haven't noticed, I run this school, man." But that doesn't scare Andrew, and he orders the boys to go to the principal's office. When they get in front of Principal Morgenthau, the gang tries to pin the drugs on Arthur and Jimmy, but Andrew isn't buying that. Principal Morgenthau, however, is hesitant to believe Andrew and claims they must be absolutely certain, with proof, that the drugs belong to the gang, since selling drugs is a criminal offense. Stegman also starts to play victim, telling Principal Morgenthau that Mr. Norris has been out to get him ever since he started, that he's the best pianist in the school, but Mr. Norris won't let him play in the orchestra. And I guess this works because this dumbass principal gives them the benefit of the doubt and lets them go. Meanwhile, Jimmy wanders out of the school by himself, high as a f***ing kite. He focuses in on the flag and decides to climb all the way up the flagpole to the very top. He starts shouting all this nonsensical mumbo-jumbo, eventually getting the attention of all the students and faculty. He then starts reciting the Pledge of Allegiance, but eventually starts to slip and inevitably falls, plummeting to the ground to his death, wrapped in the American flag. Everyone stands around watching as they put Jimmy's body into an ambulance. Andrew then pulls Arthur aside and tells him that he believes Jimmy's dead because of the drugs he bought in the restroom, and that he also believes that because Arthur was there and knows who sold the drugs to Jimmy, that he can go to the police with this information. But Arthur denies knowing anything about the drugs or the whole situation, which is an understandable response seeing as how Stegman and his gang are watching him intently from afar as he talks to Andrew. Andrew tells him to leave him alone and walks off, Terry then invites Andrew to go out and get a drink with him, to which Andrew accepts. Elsewhere in town, Deneen and Arthur are walking on the side of the street when they are followed by Stegman and his gang, because of course. Stegman yells out at Arthur that he needs to have a little chat with him. Arthur tries sticking up for himself, assuring Stegman that he kept his mouth shut. But unfortunately that doesn't work, and the gang ends up chasing them down an alleyway, eventually trapping them. Meanwhile, Andrew and Terry just happen to be driving around in that area. Terry is telling Andrew that the gang has already been suspended countless times, and it makes no difference, while Andrew is telling Terry that he actually thinks Stegman is a brilliant kid. This is when they catch sight of Fallon on the side of the road, once again standing guard. They stop the car right in front of him, and Fallon goes running back to warn the others that Norris and Corrigan are coming. "School's out, teacher. You're not welcome here. I can bust your ass," Stegman warns. "So do it," Andrew shouts back. Stegman then tells him he has plans for him. "Likewise," Andrew responds. "All I need is one kid who's got the guts to face you in an open court and finger you for pushing, and then I've got you." Andrew then attempts to grab Deneen and Arthur to pull them into safety when Stegman steps right in front of him, pushing him. Andrew pushes back, prompting a scuffle, with Terry rushing into Andrew's defense and getting cut by Drugstore in the process. This distraction helps Arthur and Deneen to escape though, and they're able to run away. Stegman and his gang disappear from the scene as well, leaving Andrew and Terry behind, shocked and distressed by the interaction. That evening, Andrew comes home bleeding from a cut on his head, telling Diane that some punks from the school beat him up. Worried, Diane asks Andrew what is going on at that place. Andrew confesses that a kid died at school today, and you can just see how frustrated and disheartened he is. And in bed that night, Andrew expresses the guilt he feels over not noticing that Jimmy was high that day, because he was so preoccupied with nailing Stegman. As Andrew and Diane continue to talk inside, a familiar car pulls up outside their home, and of course it's Stegman and his gang. Fallon gets out and starts busting the windows of Andrew's car with a chain, which gets Andrew and Diane's attention from inside. Stegman then orders Fallon to ignite the flame, and only seconds later, Andrew's car goes up in flames as Andrew stares down scathingly from his bedroom window. Later that day, Andrew tells Diane that he doesn't think it's safe there anymore, and that he wants her to pack her things and go to her mother's for a while. Diane opposes, saying that this is her home and she doesn't want to go to her mother's, but that she'll only go if he goes with her. "I can't leave my job. I am worth something as a teacher," Andrew tells her. Diane tries to tell him that it's clear he isn't wanted there, and that he's taught elsewhere and this never happened. "Well, it's happened now," Andrew responds, "and I have to deal with it." Andrew then goes to the police station to report Stegman and the gang, only to get dismissed again for lack of proof, with Detective Stewiski claiming that these kids know all the loopholes. You throw them in one door and they're out another in 5 minutes. Andrew then persuades the detective to read the records they have on the gang, which Stewiski does, but omits the specific names. Beatings, gang fights, assault of a 14-year-old girl, drug pushing, prostitution rackets. He then tells Andrew that these kids are a permanent fixture here, and all they can do is keep an eye on them. That's some bullshit, I'm sorry. And things are only about to get much worse. A few days later at school, as Andrew and Terry are walking into the building, a guard comes up to Terry and tells him that they have some problems up in the lab and that Mr. Morgenthau is waiting for him up there. That's when we find out that all of Terry's lab animals have been murdered. So this whole thing is extremely upsetting. We have a cat being hung, we've got dead mice, dead rabbits, and their blood smeared all over the walls. And apparently they used real dead animals for this scene, and the stench was so horrible on set. I mean, at least we don't get to see the animals being tortured. It's the little things. But yeah, in case you needed another reason to hate Stegman and his gang, they also murder innocent animals.
I'm all right. I am perfectly all right.
Me when I lie.
Vandalism is nothing new in this school.
I'm about to crash out, for real. This whole situation makes Andrew's blood boil, and he storms through the halls right up to Stegman and pushes him into the restroom, holding him up against a pole. "If you ever come after me or Terry again, I swear to God I'll kill you," Andrew shouts in his face. Of course, Stegman loves this, telling Andrew to go ahead. And after seeing that Andrew can't bring himself to actually hit him, he says, "Yeah, I knew you couldn't do it, Teach. You still believe in all that bullshit that holds it together. And when it comes down to killing, well, Teacher's just got too much to lose. Otherwise, you'd have done me right. Like this." Stegman then propels himself violently into one of the mirrors, breaking the glass with his forehead. "Or like this," he continues, then smashes his head again, this time into one of the hand dryers on the wall. And he's still not done, as he then hits his mouth on the side of one of the sinks, spitting out blood. Andrew watches in horror, and as Stegman attempts to hurt himself again, this time by smashing his head against the pole, Andrew charges at him, yelling at him to stop, and is able to prevent him from doing any more harm to himself. This asshole then smears some of his own blood onto his hand and wipes it onto Andrew's hand, and of course, conveniently as ever, that's when a security guard walks into the bathroom. Stegman yells out, "Look what he's done to me, man!" And things do not look good for Andrew. Cut to bitch-ass Principal Morgenthau, once again refusing to believe Andrew's side of the story. The detective is now here, and he tells Andrew that Stegman's mother is already talking assault. Andrew then tries one more time to let Morgenthau know just how dangerous Stegman and his gang are, basically pleading with him at this point to at least put him on suspension, to which Morgenthau refuses. He then tells Andrew, "If you're proven guilty of this assault, whether you did it or not, you'll never teach again." Cut to Stegman laying on the couch at his home, watching a movie on TV, the movie being Bobby Joe and the Outlaw from 1976, also directed by Mark Lester. Stegman's mother comes downstairs, lecturing him on the amount of parking tickets he's received. "They ain't got no parking at that stinking school," he tells his mom. "That school is the only one that would accept you. You know that," she says. She then asks him what he thinks of her new sweater, to which he replies that she looks great. They then hear someone knock on their door, and Stegman's mom asks him to go answer it, but he refuses and makes her go open it. She asks who's at the door, and we find out that it's Andrew. Stegman hears this from the couch and immediately plays the victim card.
Don't let him in, Ma. Please don't let him in, Mommy.
His mom then opens the door and tells Andrew, "Haven't you done enough damage? You want to talk? Talk to my attorney." Andrew then tells her that there are things she doesn't know about her son, and if they don't talk, he's going to be in a lot of trouble. Of course, she defends her son, threatening to call the police on him if he doesn't leave her and her son alone. All the while, Stegman is smirking evilly at Andrew while standing behind her. She eventually slams the door in Andrew's face and turns to her son, saying, "Don't worry, honey, he won't bother you again." Stegman then makes sure his mom walks far enough away and goes to the intercom on the wall. And just as Andrew is leaving the building, he can hear Stegman taunting him.
If you ever come here again, and I'll kill you. I swear it. You're mine, asshole. All mine. I am the future. You hear that? I am the future.
So yeah, before I go on, I just want to talk about something really quickly here regarding Stegman that might be controversial. I don't really care if it is, it's just what I'm thinking. So this film really isn't scared to make you hate this kid's guts, right? And the film also never gets you to try to feel sorry for him in any way. Like, he is the scum of the earth. And this is the only scene in the movie where we get a look at his home life. And it's actually pretty surprising when we find out that his home life actually seems pretty normal. It's not like he's, I don't know, being horribly abused at home or anything like that for it to make sense for him to act out the way that he does. He clearly lives in a nice building, and his mom, although she is completely and utterly oblivious to the extent of her son's wickedness, seems to actually care about him. And it's this point in the film where you realize that the only reason Stegman is acting the way that he is because he can, because he likely has never been told no. Just from that quick interaction between him and his mom, we can tell that he's a spoiled, manipulative brat who's always gotten his way and plays victim to mask the fact that he's an absolute sociopath. And also, I know I already said this, but you will hate him even more by the end of this film. I know that's hard to believe, but trust me, you will. Andrew then walks into the building's parking garage and spots Stegman's car. He takes a fire extinguisher and breaks the car's window, opens the door, and sits inside the driver's seat. And after hotwiring the car, he repeatedly slams into the walls of the parking garage, completely totaling the car. Obviously, Stegman immediately suspects Andrew, and the next day at school, barges into his classroom to confront him. "Let's say I did it. Can you prove it?" Andrew asks him. Stegman is just about to climb over Andrew's desk when a security guard walks in, stopping him from going any further. Later that day, Stegman and his gang see Arthur talking with Andrew and the detective and think he's squealing on them about Jimmy, when really Arthur was just telling the detective how great a teacher Andrew is. And at lunch that day, the gang is seen talking to that kid Vinny, who was asking to join their gang back at the punk club earlier. They're ordering Vinny to, quote, do something, and Vinny agrees to. But we're not sure at first exactly what it is. Until, that is, we see Drugstore lift up his jacket to reveal a switchblade. Then, a few seconds later, we see Fallon and Barnyard purposely cause a fight in the cafeteria. Absolute chaos ensues, which causes a large enough distraction for Vinny to get the switchblade, stand up, and walk over to Arthur and stab him, rupturing a kidney. A few days later, at a local park where Andrew and Terry are having lunch with each other and their wives, Andrew notices Terry's heavy drinking and asks what he's doing to himself. "Who cares?" Terry responds. "It calms me." Terry is obviously at the end of his ropes, completely breaking down in front of Andrew, calling himself a failure.
I can't get through. I always had this dream that I could make kids read every book they could lay their hands on. If I could only be an inspiration to one goddamn growing mind. I
love Roddy McDowall's performance throughout this entire film, but especially in this scene. You just really feel for him, and he didn't fail those students. Those students failed him, and you just really wish you could step through the screen and tell him that. Back at school, Andrew is conducting band practice when a security guard comes running in and alerts him of something happening. Immediately cut to Terry's biology class, where we see all the students looking on edge and frightened. Then cut to Terry, and we realize he's standing in front of the classroom, teaching, while holding the very same gun we saw he was keeping in his briefcase at the beginning of the film.
What are you doing? I'm teaching. Can't you see that?
This scene is so good. Like, the man has lost it. He goes around to multiple students in the class, asking them questions while holding them at gunpoint. He eventually goes over to Stegman and asks him, what is an amphibian?
You should know. We had such a wonderful display hanging on our wall.
After a few seconds of Stegman refusing to answer, Terry sticks the gun right in his face, prompting Andrew to try to take control of the situation. And right as Terry is about to shoot Stegman's damn brains out, Andrew grabs Terry's hand, which makes the gun go off in the other direction. All of the students are able to run safely out of the classroom, and Andrew holds Terry as he has an absolute breakdown.
They killed my animals.
I'm sorry, but this performance is absolutely award worthy to me, and it might be the most powerful scene in the entire film, although there are lots of powerful scenes in this film, a lot of which we haven't even gotten to yet. But just when I hear Class of 1984, my mind immediately thinks of this scene, and it's all because of the performance by Roddy McDowall. Like, just absolutely brilliant. Later that night, we see that Terry has followed Stegman and his gang and is watching them as they leave the punk club. He is also drunk as hell and looking like an absolute madman, and unfortunately we all know where this is going. He then proceeds to try to run down the gang with his car, but they manage to get out of the way. He crashes into a parked car, and this allows the gang and several others to start attacking Terry's car. Terry reverses, nearly killing everyone there, and proceeds to try to kill Stegman, who is holding onto the hood of his car. However, his plan fails when Stegman is able to jump off and roll away. This doesn't stop Terry though, as he continues to try to run Stegman down, but unfortunately, he doesn't see this other car in the middle of the road and hits it head on, sending him flying through the air, his car going up in flames. Just so unfortunate. Like truly tragic. After Terry's funeral, Diane asks Andrew if he's finally ready to give up his obsession with those kids at Lincoln High, and Andrew responds with, "Terry couldn't handle it. I can." Later, Andrew goes to visit Arthur in the hospital, who is now stable, and tries to get him to say who stabbed him. But Arthur refuses to snitch, even though he knows who did it. Andrew tells him, "I'm not going to force you into anything, but I just want you to think about this. I think that the only rights we have are the ones we're willing to fight for. You owe it to your friends at school to stick up for yourself." And this makes Arthur finally reveal to him that it was Vinny who had stabbed him. Immediately, Andrew shows up to the police station, but sees that Stegman and his gang are leaving it. He barges into Stewiski's office, asking why he let them go. Stewiski says, "It's the law. I can only keep them here for 24 hours, blah, blah, blah. Besides, we still got Vinny. They set him up. You know that," Andrew shouts. "I don't know that, and you don't know that either." Andrew expresses concern about the gang going after Arthur again, and Stewiski tells him to not worry about Arthur, that they'll protect him. "But who's gonna protect you?" he asks Andrew. And then, before leaving his office, Stewiski tells Andrew to just mind his own business. It's the day of the concert that Andrew and the band are putting on at school, and at home, Andrew tells Diane that it starts around 8, but to get there a little early. Diane then tells him that she's really proud of him. They kiss, and he heads out the door. The second Andrew walks into the school, he's immediately cornered and followed by the gang, with Stegman repeating in Andrew's face, "I am the future." "Not if I have anything to say about it," Andrew says, and pushes through them, with Stegman saying this famous line after he walks away.
Life is pain. Pain is everything. You will learn.
That evening, back at their house, Diane is shown at her vanity getting ready for the concert, and we're all instantly terrified. Our fears being confirmed as we see the gang breaking in through a window in the kitchen. Diane hears footsteps approaching the bedroom and turns around to see Stegman entering the room while whistling a tune. And then the rest of the gang show up and throw her on the bed. Yeah, they then take turns assaulting her, and it sucks. Remember when I said earlier that the film somehow manages to make you hate Stegman and his gang even more? This is what I was talking about. Apparently this scene had to be heavily edited in order for the film to not get an X rating. I'm not going to show any more footage from this scene, but just know that while the guys are taking turns assaulting Diane, Patsy is taking Polaroids of it, and when they're finished, they go and apply some of Diane's makeup to their face, kind of like war paint. This scene is very intense, and it was very much inspired by A Clockwork Orange. I mean, Stegman and his gang do have a lot of similarities between Alex and his droogs, just in terms of mannerisms, outfits, dialogue. But yeah, they don't kill Diane, but they do kidnap her. They force her out of the house and into their van. Back at the school, lots of people have shown up for the concert, and just as Andrew is about to start conducting, Patsy shows up and hands an envelope to a student standing at the doors of the auditorium and motions to Andrew.
That girl there, she told me to give this to you.
Andrew opens the envelope and we see his face transform as he stares at the Polaroid inside. He turns around and goes sprinting out of the auditorium after Patsy, who is taunting him from afar.
Come and get it, teacher.
So now we finally enter the final act of this film, the slasher part of the film. in my opinion. A tension-filled cat and mouse revenge sequence that is so satisfying. Buckle up. Andrew continues running down the dark, empty halls of the school, screaming out for Diane. Patsy pops out again and says, "Getting warmer, teacher," and continues leading him down a different level of the school. He ends up running right into the gang's trap as Fallon sprays him with the fire extinguisher, and Drugstore and Barnyard start beating him as he's disoriented. Fallon eventually has to hold Barnyard back, telling him to stop, and that they'll get to play more later. And right after spitting on him as he lay on the ground, they begin to walk off knowing that Andrew will follow them. And of course he does. And as he continues to wander the halls looking for Diane, he hears a noise coming from the gymnasium. And once inside, he notices Stegman holding Diane at knife point on the upper level. "Let her go, Stegman," Andrew pleads. "You can have me. I've already got you," Stegman replies. Just then, Drugstore and Fallon both swing down from ropes, knocking Andrew to the ground, while Stegman runs off still holding Diane. The gang beats up Andrew some more, even throwing some Halloween decorations on him, spooky, and proceeds to walk off again. Back in the auditorium, the audience has grown impatient over the fact that the concert hasn't started yet. Principal Morgenthau apologizes for the delay and asks everyone to remain in their seats, but that's when Deneen walks over and tells him that she thinks she can fill in for Mr. Norris. And that she does, walking over to the podium and starting the concert. Meanwhile, the gang is still roaming the halls, confused by where Mr. Norris went, since they haven't seen him in a while, and decide to split up and look for him. We see that Andrew has slipped into one of the classrooms, and shortly after him, Fallon walks into the class, and after Andrew unsuccessfully tries to hit him with a crowbar, Fallon starts hitting him with a chain. But Andrew is able to overtake him, picking him up and slamming him on some desks. The two continue to fight, eventually making their way over to a table saw. Fallon overtakes Andrew and holds him down, his face inches away from the blade, and turns on the machine. "You're dead, Mr. Norris," Fallon says. But Mr. Norris ain't no bitch and is able to make his way out of Fallon's hold and put him down on the table. And in a super gnarly effect that also had to be edited down to not get an X rating, Andrew saws Fallon's arm completely off. Fallon makes one last attempt at overtaking Andrew, but Andrew slams Fallon right back down on the table, killing him once and for all. Andrew leaves the classroom and continues down the hall, disappearing into another one of the rooms, while Drugstore, Patsy, and Barnyard eventually stumble upon Fallon's body. "I'm gonna cut Norris's heart out," Drugstore threatens, with Patsy responding, "Do it!" Meanwhile, Andrew is in what I guess is a welding class and is pouring gasoline all over the ground. He then hides behind one of the cars, waiting for the gang. Drugstore hears some commotion and enters the classroom, calling out Mr. Norris's name. Andrew then jumps out from behind the car looking crazy as hell and wastes no time lighting this on fire. Drugstore goes up in flames in a pretty awesome looking fire stunt. Love it. That's when Barnyard and Patsy run in and find Drugstore's crispy corpse. Andrew is still nearby, and as soon as Barnyard sees him, he charges at him. The two start fighting, and Barnyard picks up Andrew and chucks him across the room. Andrew gets up and is able to gain the upper hand, hitting Barnyard repeatedly in the face with a pipe. And while all this is happening, Patsy gets into one of the nearby cars and begins speeding right towards Andrew. But Andrew is able to jump out of the car's path, resulting in Patsy driving right into Barnyard and crashing as another car falls right on top of hers. Andrew immediately runs over to Patsy, who is bleeding profusely, and asks her where Diane is. Patsy is silent for a few moments, but eventually chokes out, "She's on the roof." All bloodied and battered, Andrew makes his way to the school's rooftop and finds Stegman still holding Diane at knife point. He continues to plead with Stegman to let her go, but Stegman insists that it's too late. "We all go together," he says, and slashes Diane across her chest, letting her fall to the side. This prompts Andrew to run directly at him, picking him up and tackling him to the ground. The two roll around on the ground in the film's final fight scene, with Andrew really kicking Stegman's ass here. You love to see it. I mean, we have been waiting for this the entire movie, let's be real. After hitting him several times in the face, he ends up hitting Stegman so hard, Stegman falls backwards through some glass, but he's able to hold himself up by catching onto some rope. Andrew and Diane walk over to him and watch him as he hangs.
Let me fall.
I'm just a
I'm just a kid.
We see Andrew contemplate for a few seconds before reaching out his hand and offering to help Stegman back up. Stegman then grabs Andrew's hand with his left hand, but then, with his other hand, takes out his switchblade from his back pocket and attempts to slash Andrew. And then Andrew says, "F this shit," and punches this bitch right in the face, sending him falling all the way down, crashing through the ceiling of the auditorium, the rope conveniently wrapping around his neck and hanging him, right in front of the whole crowd. Andrew and Diane finally embrace, with Andrew saying to her, "It's over, baby. It's all over now." And the film ends with the words, "Andy Norris was not prosecuted because the police could not find anyone who actually saw it happen." I know that's right. Class of 1984's initial reception was mixed among critics, half despising the film and the rest praising it. Roger Ebert reportedly loved this film, which, okay, Roger, we finally agree on something. Director and co-writer Mark Lester got the idea for this film when he decided in 1980 to visit his old high school and was appalled at what he saw and started doing research on violence in schools. So a lot of what is depicted in the film, including a lot of the dialogue, Mark Lester actually experienced or heard firsthand. I actually want to talk about the characters more than anything because I think that this film has some really great, interesting characters. Peter Stegman, played by actor Timothy Van Patten, is an obvious standout here for me. Stegman is a psychotic, violent, manipulative drug dealer, neo-Nazi racist rapist. I mean, the list goes on. And that type of character can't be easy to play. And he did it so well. The only time we get even a glimmer of anything else other than dementedness in regards to Stegman is when the film showcases his talent as a musician, you know, when he plays that beautiful composition in class. Because it's at that moment where Mr. Norris starts thinking, wow, this kid actually might have some talent, might actually be brilliant. And I think that creates a lot of conflict within Andrew for the rest of the film, which, let's talk about Andrew, played brilliantly by actor Perry King. Andrew wants to show empathy towards these troubled kids and be that stereotypical teacher savior up until the point where he realizes they have his wife and he must fight back. He's a pacifist at heart, and by the end of the film, he really is a changed man, and watching him slowly lose his humanity is also quite conflicting for the audience as well. Because deep down, you don't want him to stoop as low as Stegman and the gang, but at the same time, you're rooting for him to kill these monsters because you know it's what they deserve. It's very interesting. You feel the exact same way about Roddy McDowall's character, Terry Corrigan, as well. This is a man who also clearly has a passion for teaching, but is so worn down from teaching at this school. And it's absolutely heartbreaking to witness his downfall. But yeah, I find the characters in this movie to be so interesting and fun to watch, even if some of them are just the worst type of people. It's the performances by the actors that make the characters so irresistible. There's apparently 2 sequels to this film that I have not seen. I think I read that they are science fiction sequels, which is an immediate turn-off for me, but I'll probably check them out at some point. At the end of the day, this movie is solid as hell. It's a super fun movie to watch until we get to the assault scene. That's never fun to watch, but unfortunately it kind of comes with the territory with this genre of film. The acting, the soundtrack, the fashion, tension, all amazing. The kills at the end are actually super well done and satisfying to watch. Director Mark Lester has called this film the most prophetic film ever made because of what high schools would later become, and you know, he's really tooting his own horn there. But I do agree that the film is eerily prophetic and important. And it walks a certain fine line between camp and disturbingly grim and serious, and just makes for such an entertaining, thrilling ride. And this is hands down my favorite exploitation film of all time. I want to thank you guys so much for spending some time with me today while I talk about Class of 1984. Let me know your thoughts on the film if you've seen it. And if you haven't seen the film but still watch this video, I encourage you to go watch the movie for yourself and see how you feel about it. Even if it doesn't seem like your thing, it's worth watching at least once. I'll have all my links in the description box below. Feel free to leave me some video suggestions in the comments below, and I'll see you in my next video.